Thing is, I don't understand. Like, I don't know anything about the rules, and I don't know who's driving. So, like, I don't know. I don't know where to start.
That's what Drive to Survive was all about.
I think maybe I need to ask ChatGPT to give me a crash course in F1 rules.
Drive to Survive was about explaining to everybody that it's not about who wins the race. The real competition is in the middle order. That's where.
That's a series, right? I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I should watch that.
The difference between ending 7th and 6th in the World Championship is like $20 million to the team.
Whoa. That's the stakes?
That's the stakes.
Jeez.
And at the race, the difference between being 4th and 3rd is like 50% more sponsor space.
I know of all the big car names, like you got BMW and you got Mercedes and you got Ferrari, but obviously there in the movie there was a fictional company that Apex GP in real Formula One. Are there any smaller?
It was the only fictional thing in that show.
Yeah,
because all the drivers, everything else was real. When you see the Apex GP drivers lining up for the national anthem, that was done at a real race, and F1 cameras cut them off, and the movie people filmed the broader shot. But all of that stuff was real.
Oh, so that wasn't just staged for the movie. That was real.
No, that was, yeah.
Oh, wow. That adds to the realism.
Oh, yeah. And at the Silverstone at the start, stunt drivers drove the cars in the formation lap and then drove them off through an exit while the rest finished the formation lap. And they were at races. You got to watch some of the behind the scenes things. As I said to Alex in a text, they spent all the money.
My only question is, because this is Apple and their streaming platform, is as someone who likes physical media, I wonder. I really hope we get like a 4K disc of this movie, because I want to see this on my TV, but not through streaming.
Hold your breath. I don't think they're looking at the DVD.
Well, because I just want all the behind the scenes too.
I know. Well, they certainly prove with the Beatles documentary and other things that you can ask people to watch 30 hours of content on streaming, and people will do it if the content is compelling.
The opening music is Led Zeppelin, A Whole Lot of Love. And when they do that, they've spent money. They also use Another One Bites the Dust, which Queen have always been very careful about. In fact, Eye of the Survivor from Rocky III, they were meant to be using Another One Bites the Dust, and they lost the rights at the last minute. So Eye of the Tiger is written to the beat of Another One Bites the Dust.
Interesting. Oops. Yeah, sorry. I am squeaky.
We're glad that Ofan is so pleasant with us. As present in your pains, we thank you for. We matched our records.
Welcome to Office Hours, where we've been answering your media and tech-related production questions every single day since March 25th, 2020. Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, is our reader today. Alexander, what have we got?
First question is coming from Scott Hancock in Tokyo. Client will do a PowerPoint stand-up at a booth from his PC and also play 3 videos to a different screen at specific times. No operator. Thinking to use MiX16 Show Cue Lite from an iPad out to HDMI dongle. Any better way to keep it super simple?
Alex Lindsay's going to help you out. Alex?
It depends on really how much you're planning to do the edit. So, so are you going to edit right up to the last minute, or are you going to have all the stuff that you need immediately? And so those are the things you really want to think about, because if you switch away from your PowerPoint presentation, then you now have to make sure that you're burning that in. And we do that a lot. And then there's a lot of things you can use. So I'm not as familiar with MiX16, the Cue. Typically I have to admit that I'm usually working on my presentation until the last minute, because I always think of something new as I'm walking up. So I tend to do everything in Keynote if I'm going to do a presentation, and then I'm typically using what's called a DSAN perfect cue to cue it. We call it the pickle, and it is the industry standard for moving a slide from one place to another. I have a little one that fits in my bag. We have larger ones that we use for production. And that's how I kind of approach those things. The question is with the video and I understand PowerPoint sometimes doesn't, and even Keynote doesn't always play video out perfectly. So are you trying to switch between, as soon as you say, I want to switch and have an input that's coming from my PowerPoint and then another input that's coming from video, you probably want someone there to help having a person do that is a little bit more complicated. So that'd be the thing that I would think about there. But if you can incorporate those together, and again, my experience, up until the last couple of years, I haven't used PowerPoint in a couple of years, but Keynote generally plays everything out better, out of an HDMI. It's just a little smoother. It's got a little bit, Apple Macs have some better subsystems for that kind of thing. So it tends to work a little bit more smoothly than PowerPoint.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, especially if you're playing back ProRes files, you got to use something that runs on a Mac. I would say I would not trust, I don't know, MX16 Show Cue Lite, but if it's not designed for a second screen, it's just designed to play it out on the iPad, and then you're just duping that screen from the iPad out to HDMI dongle. That's a lot of trouble. That seems to me to be a lot of trouble. Now, I haven't used an iPad for playback, so I'm not speaking from a lot of experience here. But since the iPad has a different aspect ratio than 16:9, you have to deal with screen aspect ratios. And if it's mirroring, how do you deal with that? I'd rather play it out of a second laptop, be it a Mac or a PC. And go out the video output so that you can have control of your playback that is not on the screen. So if you have I hate it when people, you go to see something on now let's go to the clip, and the media player interface comes up from whatever it is, and you see the QuickTime play button pressed and all that stuff. I rather prefer software that has a clean output on a second video output, and that you control it from a control panel on your primary screen on your laptop, so that you hide the interface from the people, and then you can put up a bumper slide or something else there. And so that if you're not running through a switcher, since you said that was the videos are going to a second screen, I might want to have something else up on there. You didn't say whether you can have a switcher between the two, switching between the PowerPoint and the videos. But I think it's cleaner to have playback software that gives you a clean output on a second screen than trying to deal with an iPad and a touch interface to control everything.
Alex, do you want to revisit?
Yeah, and again, I think the question really is, what are you using for? If you're using the Cue Lite for the iPad, are you trying to talk? I'm assuming, I realize it's 2 different screens you're trying to kind of hit at the same time. And John Wallace pointed out that ProPresenter does this all day. so ProPresenter as a piece of software, this is it kind of built up in the house of worship area, because so they've got lots of screens, but it's also a great general purpose app. So that's another thing you may want to look at as far as how to do that. My other suggestion on a Mac side would be possibly something like QLab, hitting both of the screens at the same time. That would take some rehearsal, and it would take exporting all the frames out as JPEGs and putting them in and making that all work. So that could be another option to think about as well.
And in the chat, Ronnie Hofsoy is up for QLab as well. He says all day long. And Mickey noted that setting up audio routing on an iPad with the current iPad OS can be a bit painful. So keep those factors in mind. Next question.
This one is a QR code question coming from Chester Sweeney in Las Vegas, Nevada. We know screens and monitors for computers, if left on the same image long enough, it will burn in the image. But what about MacBooks and iPads?
Alex?
Definitely had it happen with MacBooks. Not one recently, but the last. So I haven't had it happen with the M series MacBooks, but I haven't had enough of a MacBook to see if that would happen. With older ones, we definitely have those types of issues. Some ghosting after things are left on, and usually where you see it is parts of your interface, like the menu bar or something like that, has been in there a lot, and it shows up over time. I have not seen it at all with my iPads ever. Like I've had iPads, my kids are still using Pros that I bought them 10 years ago, I think, almost 10 years ago. And there's no ghosting. So it really depends on, and I think partially because the iPad changes so often and there's not a single piece of interface that stays up a long time.
Yeah, and I haven't noticed any of it on my MacBooks. Particularly, you'd think that the menu bar, which stays fixed pretty much any software you're going, that's where we used to see burn-in on screens that were prone to it. I have not seen any of that in the last 6-7 years that I've noticed. Courtney, you wanted to get in on this?
Yeah, this burn-in problem really doesn't happen very much on LCD screens. It's mainly OLEDs where you'll see it because they have a limited life on organic LEDs. Depends on the type of OLED, whether they're emissive type or whether they're backlit type with a filter. I haven't seen it very much on laptops, almost never, and mainly on monitors, big screen monitors that are not LCDs. The old plasmas, of course, were problematic, and OLEDs are a problem. But if it's not an OLED, I wouldn't worry about it that much. Just change it up, put a white screen up every now and then to exercise it, run through the colors, or put up a screensaver that cycles through different contrasts and different images, and it may eliminate those burn-ins.
Alex Lindsay, you wanted to come back in?
This is the value of our chat that's inside of Mukana. David Brady says that he said, yes, destroyed a number of iPads when using them with Crestron room controllers. And Mickey said, I had it on iPads. Keep Touch OSC and Universe running 24/7 and you'll see burn-in. And David said, feel the burn. so anyway, it appears, like I think a lot of us don't use iPads that way, but if you use them as interfaces, it sounds like you will get some burn-in.
Next question.
Douglas Carmichael's asking, for those that use ChatGPT, are you concerned about the privacy implications of the New York Times lawsuit? Do you think the New York Times and OpenAI will strike a deal as they did with Amazon?
And Nigel Desau is going to help us out here. Nigel?
So I think we're going to read a lot of stories over the next few weeks and months that are going to make the case either side of this. The Anthropic case recently, a judge actually said that it wasn't fair. It was not a copyright issue because it was fair use. Some of this is going to come down, I think, to whether the particular company is fair using the material, so is reading the content and replaying that content or reusing it into their own work product. And that's where the debate, I think, is going to be. Because if they're taking the content and just replaying it, that is piracy. And that will survive. If, however, they read all the books and they watch all the movies and they interpret from that a third view, that's going to be fair use. Now, the answer is, did they pay for the books? And did they pay for the movies? And there may come down to the point where these AI companies are going to have to pay for all these books. And so what you're seeing with the legal settlement is them getting around that problem. Now, the bigger challenge for us as in a war of AI with someone like China is we may force our AI companies to pay for all of this, and China and other places may not, and they may just use it without payment. There's plenty of sources for sources for pirated books. But at the end of the day, this is going to come down to a fair use and a creation of a third product. And that's why I'm not particularly worried about it. OpenAI is fighting one thing. The Anthropic's gone a different way. My guess is at some point the Supreme Court makes a decision.
Courtney Gooden?
Yeah, I think we're at the point almost where the intellectual property law may have to change to accommodate AI. AI is pretty much a major quantum shift discovery that can advance civilization. And you don't want to hold it back. What if the first cavemen invented the wheel and there was a caveman lawyer over there said, no, you can't use the wheel because Joey over here invented it. So I'm sorry, how far would civilization have advanced? Or we'd still be carrying people around on litters these days? Or, at some point, I think ingest, the training, using published information, intellectual property, they should pay for a copy of the book, just like libraries do. Libraries rent out those books to people or loan them out to people. And that's allowed. That's, a carve-out, fair use that has been used in intellectual property. As long as Nigel said, they don't use pirated copies. If they pay the publisher a one-time fee for all of their library of books, the authors are not. It's not going to be a payday for the authors. They just have to get over that. Their works are going to be sucked into the milieu of the artificial intelligence brain, and little pieces of it will spill out occasionally, but the work in general will never be reproduced and distributed, because the way AI works, it divides it up into little tiny morsels and builds new stuff from those morsels. So the chances of being able to trace where the morsels came from is too problematic, and it would hold back the technology. And this is a technology you do not want to hold back with legal challenges, because those legal challenges won't hold up in other countries. And if you're going to be competitive, and the advantages of AI, generative AI, far outweigh the minuscule royalties that would be received by someone's work being ingested.
Alex Lindsay.
And the article here is really about the New York Times trying to get ChatGPT to retain all chats. So that they, in their lawsuit. And so what ChatGPT is doing while they do this is there's an order out there. They're fighting that order, but they're also giving users the ability to delete everything as they can delete their own chats as quickly as possible, so that if there's anything you're embarrassed about chatting with ChatGPT, you can get rid of it today. And so I think that ChatGPT is kind of trying to burn the house down before they get there. So, and so I think that that's what this specific thing is. I don't think there's anything that I said to ChatGPT that I'm particularly worried about. If you are, you probably shouldn't talk to a cloud entity about things that you're worried about. If you are having those discussions, then you should probably use something on your computer. So anyway, some kind of stability AI. But if you're talking to a cloud, but if you're worried about it, this could be trade secrets. This could be ideas. This could be brainstorming, a whole variety of things. If you want to get rid of it, ChatGPT is giving you the tools now to get rid of that theoretically, before the New York Times will start to cut through all of that. I don't know how the New York Times would have to use AI to go through the AI to find anything that they were trying to find.
To sue someone about AI.
There's some kind of, there's a Escher drawing there somewhere of data.
Hey, don't forget, we are driven by your questions, so we are always pulling them in. We're chatting about your questions and voting on them in the show every day. We use Mukana. That's our Q&A system. If you'd like to get involved and be a part of it, go to officehours.global/join. We'll send you an email within a day or two. Once you've done that, you can get into the system, and then you can ask, vote on, and discuss in our very active chat the show's questions every day. That's officehours.global/join. All right, next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana is asking, a chart of accounts in business keeps track of cash flow as well as assets and liabilities. Do you use anything similar to keep track of project expenses or other production assets such as hard drives?
Courtney Gooden's going to start us off. Courtney?
I use Quicken for accounting software, and I have for decades since it came out. My accountant scolds me every time I do my taxes at the end of the year that I'm not using QuickBooks instead of Quicken. But they came out with a version for home and business. And since I had several businesses and my home accounts, I could keep everything together in one program with Quicken. And it has improved. It keeps a chart of accounts. It keeps, your contact list. It keeps all of your clients in a database. So it's easy to fill in booking forms and accounting forms and project forms to keep projects straight and billing straight and accounts receivable straight, et cetera, and do aging on accounts. All of that stuff is done within the software. So there are a variety of different software packages designed to do that. Some that are more compliant with the correct accounting, whatever that catchphrase is that the IRS uses for proper accounting methods and technology, and what do they call it? Anyway, proper accounting methods must be kept in order for you if you're audited any day by the IRS, which becomes less and less likely these days because of cutbacks. You may have to worry about your accounting software that you used. I do not use it to keep track of things like my videotape collection or anything else.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I think that obviously during a production, we've got a variety of spreadsheets, not pretty much laid out like this, that we're keeping track of, making sure we're not going over budget. That's really we have big buckets of how much we can spend on things, and we keep a fairly tight vision of what that looks like. As far as the longer things, QuickBooks has been mostly what we used it's what ONINO uses, I know, and also what PixelCore used. And I think that there's Quicken. I think Courtney might have stretched the limit of what Quicken is designed to do. QuickBooks is the next step up for many people. And then after that, once you get into there's somewhere between 5 and 10 million a year that you switch to other tools to make that happen. And I think we were right on the top end of that with PixelCore, figuring out what that needed to look like. So,
next question.
Paul Vahus in Austin, Texas is asking, how does the panel approach creating and maintaining technical documentation? Example, signal flow diagrams, gear lists, network maps for complex projects in a way that is actually useful and stays up to date throughout the production lifecycle.
Alex Lindsay's going to help you out. Alex?
I can't say that we're doing it the most efficient way. I mean, a lot of times what we're looking for is speed, so we're trying to figure out how do we get things done quickly. And so we happen to use, again, because it's general purpose and then it allows us to do what we need to do. And it's on a Mac. We use OmniGraffle for all of our technical diagrams. I have since version 1. So it's, and there's a lot of tools in there that may have been a suggestion from us. It specifically works pretty well with what we do. Same with network maps. As far as gear lists, those are typically, if I'm doing them, they usually start in numbers and then get exported to sheets for Google. And that's how a lot of that happens, because that way we can integrate it. I will say that more and more of what I'm doing right now is an Airtable. Airtable is like, I don't know, sheets with a lot of gamma rays. It's got so many different ways for me to look at the data and process that data. I don't know how I would survive a complex project now without it. We do some collaboration as far as design around Mira, which is another one that we'll do design sessions around to kind of work through those things as we get started.
Cordy Gooden.
Yeah, I've adopted the use of Acro many years ago, but before there were easy tools on the computer for creating and tracking these things. Creating a paper sheet in Adobe Acrobat, which was now then converted to a fill-in form, an electronic PDF, a PDF form that I can fill in. And this booking sheet, for example, when a job comes in, I pull up the booking sheet in or the booking sheet in Acrobat, and I fill in all the little fields, type them in, so because I have horrible handwriting, but then I print it out, and then you can add to this sheet by hand. And so this booking sheet is two-sided. It has a time card on the back, and it has all the booking information for the job on the front, who the client is, who the contacts are, where the location is, the call times, the equipment that we're using. All that stuff is all contained on a single booking sheet for each job. And then those booking sheets are PDFs, and they're saved into a folder. So I have chronologically all the bookings by date that are in there in the booking sheet that I can pull up at any point. And that includes the time card that is filled in by the operator that works it, so that I know when the call time was, when the wrap time was, when the lunch breaks were. All of that information is on a single sheet or a single PDF file that I can pull up, 4 years later and see, oh, we did that project 3 years ago. What did we do? What equipment did we use? Who did it? Where was it? I can just search through those, and I store those sheets, those PDF files, using the date and the client name so in the file name, so that I can easily sort them chronologically and by client name and find out when that job was and where it was by pulling up that booking sheet. But there's no I don't keep a central database for organizing all that equipment. I have to manually go back and find the booking sheet. And they exist both in paper form and electronically. So there's a double copy.
Alex?
And Mickey made a good point that he said adults like JJ McKenna use AutoCAD. And I will agree that for very large wiring projects, AutoCAD is pretty much the standard. And it's ironic that I don't use it, since my first time of using AutoCAD was, I think, 1986. So I got in pretty early on as a high school student with an uncle with an engineer and discs. So I used VersaCAD and AutoCAD when I got started, but haven't used it for maybe a decade or two.
Courtney, you wanted to slip back in?
Yeah, the other thing I meant to mention is for doing documentation, which is something, technical documentation. I've written a number of software products that were commercially available, and I had to write the manuals for them. So for that work, I used Microsoft Word, and I used a lot of screen capture. So I'd run the program, do screen caps to demonstrate each item on a menu and where you access it and how you access it. And writing documentation was the bane of any creator's jobs. These days, I got lazy and just started doing video tutorials on how to do it, because nobody ever opens the documentation and reads it anyway.
Hey, don't forget, it is Monday, which means that tonight, Extra Hours is on 6 p.m. Pacific time. For those of you who it's a struggle to get up and meet the time deadlines for this show, it might help you to get into Extra Hours tonight, Monday. We also have other special shows, like on Thursday, The Rundown with David Paskin. So check out. We will. Oh, Alex, did you want to come back in on that?
Nope,
looked down. I'm fine. Okay, let's go to the next question.
This question is from Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. I love to watch when a new person jumps into training space for video production. Have you ever learned a new skill from such a fresh face? Does their enthusiasm for this subject inspire you? There's a link to a YouTube channel.
Hey, Courtney, what do you think?
I haven't had a chance to look at this YouTube channel. It's by an English gentleman. I don't know his name.
I think it's Australian.
Australian? Okay. He had an accent. What can I tell you? I didn't like it. I haven't gone through a lot of it. So it's appropriate that he's doing something about DaVinci Resolve. And so this is a lot of instructional material that he's put up for Resolve. I've learned a lot from various instructors who have their own channels on YouTube. Fresh faces. I learn a lot from the new people. They're the ones that have their finger on the pulse of what's happening and how to get and how to do it. So there's tons of tutorials on how to use Veo 3 to create Bigfoot vlogs, out there now, and Stormtrooper vlogs. If you want to make a lot of money on the internet.
Alex Lindsay.
I think this is the site. I think Courtney was showing it as well. I just can't believe how many he put out. So look at this. This is all in the last 2 weeks. So obviously he kind of worked on it for quite some time, but he has.
Maybe he's AI.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Maybe he's AI. Exactly. We should probably have him on the show. Just getting started. I don't know if I would have put out so much at one time, but I think it'll be really interesting to see how his views and follows. I think that the calculation is what he's doing, which I applaud, is lots of little segments that are clear about this is what I'm going to show you how to do. It's not a 20-minute thing. It's not a 30-minute thing. It doesn't have a bunch of chapters. It just has, this is how to do each one of these operations. And it is something that I've been thinking about related to a lot of other apps and so on and so forth, not Resolve, but a lot of other ones. And I think he's crushing it. You know, if you watch it, it's succinct. It's I watched a little bit before the show, seeing the question earlier before the show, and so it's succinct. It's to the point. It seems relatively clear. I think he must be using ScreenFlow because there's a lot of like larger cursors and other things like that kind of pop up. So he's put a lot of work into it, and so I would highly recommend checking it out. So if you're interested in Resolve, it's called I think it's what was it? DaVinci Dojo is the site here, or it's just it's not a website. It's just a YouTube channel. It's only got 539 followers, 2 more since I started. I think it was 537 a minute ago. So I think we should jump in and follow it. But I think he did a really great job. Again, I probably would have done something reasonable like 10 a week, and put them out. It seems like he did like 100 a week. But I applaud him. I think it does make a difference. You can now get there and kind of surf through all the things that you're looking for. So good work. I haven't really looked at it as to areas that I know well that I would know whether he was accurate or not. But the quality of the delivery is very high.
With that much production, you've got to wonder if that's just him or whether he's assembled a team.
No, it's all him. It's all him. I think
you don't think there's a back-end editing team helping him get that many out?
There could be.
You're doing a tutorial on how to create tutorials. It very meta, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Next question.
This one's from Jeff Veely in Henderson, Texas. There is a strong trend for podcast and live streaming studios across America and perhaps beyond. Do you see this as a fad or here to stay?
Alexander Knight, what do you think?
I think for the foreseeable future, it's here to stay. I think a lot of these studios that I've seen seem to be built primarily as a video production studio for YouTube because they're clearly going to great lengths, spending money. Some are better than others. Some of them look pretty amateur. Even some of the ones with big name celebrities, I kind of look at and question, I don't think you hired the right people for this. They probably just got a friend to build it. But there have also been a number of them that have actually shut down, and the names escape me. A couple of big ones that were backed, that had quite a bit of money that have shut down. But I think they're here to stay, and it's really interesting to see what people are doing with the production of these studios. So I think there's going to be a bigger need for them. I think a lot of these, I know for a fact that a lot of these studios are being shared. So there are different shows being used for these studios. Some of them are bespoke for specific shows, but a lot of them have sets that can get repurposed for other shows as well.
Nigel?
Yeah, one of the podcasts I really enjoy every week is called The Rest is Entertainment, which is part of a series, The Rest is History, The Rest is Politics, The Rest is et cetera, owned by Goalhanger in the UK. And Goalhanger have clearly built themselves a set of studios. The presenters, and by the way, they're snarky British people, so if you don't like snarky British comments, you might be not enjoying the podcast, but I enjoy it, and they tend to do it from one of Goalhanger's studios. And I understand that, Goalhanger is trying to create a community, is trying to create a sense of almost reliving the BBC, where you would go in and you would share studios and you'd meet other people. And it was really a culture and a community for a long time. But I do know that Richard Osman, one of the Rest is Entertainment, was in Italy for a month, and they very easily managed to do it, the whole podcast, with him in Italy, and it worked just as well. So I understand that there's both sides to that coin. There's both to create the community, if you're a multi-brand, but also when you don't need to, you can go remote.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, you definitely can go remote. I think that we are seeing the competition for quality in podcasting is increasing just because there's a lot of different places to go. And video and live streaming and recordings of the podcast we're seeing start to arc as well, just because that's a different, that's starting to become more and more normal as people do more on YouTube. And they oftentimes are cutting those down, but having live versions it's one of the great things that they can hand as subscribers, is that you get access to the live feed and are part of the conversation. And so that's something that we're seeing. I think it's going to get harder and harder and harder to have bad audio and even bad video and be doing a podcast and expect anybody to listen to it, because the quality is moving up because the tools are there. more people are doing them, but the ones that are doing them well, there's a lot of podcasts out there. Everyone jokes that there's almost a podcast for every American right now. But there is the quality, most of them, 99% of them, no one listens, they have like 10 followers, so the key is to getting that quality, at least to the audio up, and the investment of that for a lot of people at home is not, they don't have a house or a room that can do that. And so I think that multi-purpose studios are definitely something we've spent a lot of time looking for, providing, building, over the last decade. And it can be a lot less expensive to go into a studio for a couple hours than it is to actually build your own, that would be at the same level.
Courtney?
Yeah, I don't know if the indies that don't have a distribution arm are going to survive. The ones that just rent out the space and they don't have a distribution arm are going to survive. It's kind of like the independent recording studios. Most people that have enough money to build such a studio have done it in their homes so that they don't need to use an outside independent, recording studio to record in. And as far as podcasts go, there's players like Conan O'Brien's Team Coco. And what they have is this organization, it's a Conan O'Brien thing, and they have all of these podcasts that are served out of this single studio. So it's a good place. It'll be sticking around. Same thing with Sirius Radio, because they have a distribution arm over Sirius Radio and also over Sirius Podcasts. They have production studios that are available to rent, where anything that is going to be produced to go on their network can be produced. Those kind of studios are going to stick around because podcast networks and basically the type of, organizer or streaming company that organizes multiple podcasts that can be found from a single place, a distributor of podcasts those are going to maintain independent studios that you can use if you're on their network.
Hey, if you have questions you want to put into the show, it's really simple. Just type into your browser askofficehours.global. If you just pop that in there, that'll get you to kind of our quick system. Let me throw up the QR code. The QR code that just popped up on screen also gets you there, so you can just shoot that. But if you are watching the show and you have a sudden thought, hey, I'd like to ask this and get it to the panel as quickly as possible, that is an outlet for you to do that. That's askofficehours.global. Somebody take a look at the question. Make sure it's correctly formed and only one question. Don't put together a whole string. That tends to knock you out of the queue because we're just looking for one question at a time. But askofficehours.global is your solution. Next question.
Paul Va, who's in Austin, Texas. When a key piece of equipment fails during a high-stakes live event, what is the panel's framework for communicating with the client in real time? How do you balance the need for technical triage with the need for client confidence?
Alex Lindsay is going to address this. Alex?
I think there's a mixture of being candid and also not protecting the client from what you can and can't do. I've definitely had one or two failures that I had to talk to the client about of something before the event. The largest one for me was a Harris router and a broadcast truck went down. so that was and I've told this story in the past. And that was an hour before the show, or hour and a half before the show. We did start the show on time and it did turn out fine, but we did get close enough to the event that I needed to talk to the client and let them know what the issue was. And so it was about an hour before the event. We didn't have any cameras. We didn't have any way to record. We didn't have anything for a $7 million event. There's nothing there to grab onto, fortunately. And this is why you make sure that you have backups to those backups. And most importantly, high quality equipment that's in good shape with a good crew. What saved us was we had a highly technical crew that really understood the truck, really understood cameras, really understood what was possible. And we were back up after a pretty catastrophic failure without too much trouble. The main thing is that this is where, again, having multiple, a backup to the backup to the backup kind of thing makes a huge difference, and knowing that you can get to it. So treating your backups like they're primaries and making sure that you know that, or knowing what the limitations are. If you lose this, what are you not going to be able to do with the backup that you might use? Sometimes it's just not practical to have a mirror of what you could do first, but how do you still get a show out? But most of this comes down to you not having that many emergencies because you keep the equipment in good shape, you have a good team, you have proper pre-pro, you get there on time, you get there with enough time to get set up. Even the little more casual streams of figuring things out, like the stream we did on Saturday, there's no money involved. We're all volunteering. It's a skeletal crew, but we still showed up on Friday and got everything set up. so like, it was not a like, hey, let's come in the morning and see how it goes, So so you want to make sure load-in times and preparation is really the key.
Next question.
Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington is asking for a live interview with a very special guest. How do you best prepare yourself as the host?
Harshid's going to start us off this morning. Harshid Trivedi.
Yeah, so for me, I like to always read upon the guest or have that preliminary conversation. Sometimes just paying attention to those little gems, you may know so much more about that person that you didn't realize. And it just gives you that starting point, because after that point, you're unraveling either the questions you already had written in your mind or what questions kind of generate from the new conversation that you had. So for me, particularly being a blind person, I always would like to know maybe where they're from or maybe some little gem about their life, perhaps, and start off with that. And that kind of usually connects to the end of the whole conversation, and it keeps both I and that person engaged.
Alex?
Yeah, the research is really important, is really thinking about what the angles are. So I know I work with Michael Krasny, who some of you have seen some of the podcasts that we've done with Michael, and he's probably one of the best interviewers I've ever seen. But what I can tell you from the back end is he researches at incredible depth. Whatever's new that person's published, he's read all of it. He comes in with probably 30, 40 questions. He's not going to ask all of them, but he's got the questions in front of him that are possible questions or possible places to go. And then, of course, we're leaning on the live audience as well to ask questions as it goes. If you have a large enough viewership, the audience will ask questions that are at least as good as the moderator. Like, because if the people who know that person come to the show, you end up with they've been following that person for years, and so that's kind of a cross-pollination that works out well as you go into that interview. But it's the research and understanding what are the key components. Also, if you're going to ask questions that are might tweak the person, put them at the end. here's like, I'm always amazed when people just start off interviews like, I'm gonna put them in an unbalanced position at the beginning, and you end up just kind of ruining the whole interview. Or having them walk out or do other things like that. So if you're gonna ask hard questions, and I'm not really, I have to admit, I'm not. If I'm interviewing someone, it's because I'm interested in what they're talking about. I'm not a very confrontational, and some people like to do that. I don't like Curb Your Enthusiasm or Peanuts or anything that's that kind of weird emotional uncomfortableness is not what I do. If I don't like them, I don't interview them. If I don't like what they're, like, I'm not interested. And so I'm usually trying to learn things from somebody, and as a result, I don't get into that. But if you are going to get into that, or push them push them in a hard angle, just keep it to the end.
And on the panel today is the person who has the longest running show outside of the main show, Tony Mobley, who does this exactly. Tony, what are your thoughts?
I want to say everything that has already been said. I echo everything that's already been said. And I just would add that for me, there is the importance of the authenticity of having a genuine conversation with a person. Also, I would like to probe for some things that are personal that would benefit the conversation.
Nigel DeSalle.
I think you have to ask yourself one question as an interviewer, which is, what do I want out of this interview? And what at the end of it, when we're done, what am I looking for? Is it ratings? Is it shock value? Is it a better understanding of the person? What is it? And I think when you've asked yourself that question, then you need to do the research that allows you to give that person the best opportunity, your interviewee the best opportunity to give you the outcome you want.
Alex Lindsay, you want to come back in?
Yeah, one of the things that Michael and I were actually talking about the other day was the importance of trusting yourself to be curious. So a lot of times the next right question pops into your head. You're having a conversation with someone, and it's tempting to get caught up in the questions that you wrote down or the questions that are there. But a lot of times what will pop into your head is the next question to ask. And you have to get to a point where you are experienced enough to just go ahead and ask it. And I know that the best conversations I've had are ones that I have a couple things that I'm going to start with, but then I just start responding to the person talking, and we have a great conversation.
Tony? Whoops, you're muted, Tony.
My mentor, Alex Lindsay, did not mention the authenticity of being an advocate for the audience. And I always want to make sure that we talk about that, because I think that's extremely important, to be an advocate for the audience.
That's great.
Yeah, for me, having done a couple hundred of these, which is nowhere near as much as many people have done, what I learned to me is prepare relentlessly and then be utterly willing to throw it all away, because you should listen. Listen to who you're talking to, engage with them, and you will come up with things that, as an advocate for the audience, oh, they said that, the audience will want to know a little more, or something like that. So prepare like crazy, and then be willing to throw it all away if you find threads that are more than you thought. Next question.
Alval, who's in Austin, Texas. For freelance media professionals, what does the panel believe is a more effective long-term business strategy, specializing deeply in one niche area, example, becoming the go-to Dante commissioning expert, or maintaining a broad generalist skill set?
Interesting question, Paul. Nigel Dessau is going to start us off.
So I'm going to talk from the strategy point of view, and I'm going to encourage anyone who really has this question to look up something called the Ansoff matrix, which is really the way that most people in business work their product strategy out and their product market strategy out. And it takes existing products, new products, existing markets, and new markets, and gives you a roadmap as to how you can grow your business. But fundamentally, the bottom line here is, if you have saturated your existing market with your existing skill or product, then you've got three choices. Go find new markets, go learn new skills or products, or do something completely different. As you do something completely different is the way to go bankrupt very fast. The best way to do it is to think about what skill you have in the markets that you're in and what the adjacent space is. What's the next thing? So in the case of, if you're the Dante specialist, you might go into audio mixing. You might go into something that is adjacent to the Dante market. Saying, I'm now going to be the lighting specialist is not adjacent, unless it's about DMX and stuff like that. So just think about what you do well, what you sell to your existing customers, and what the next and closest market and business opportunity is, and start there.
Alex Lindsay.
Yeah, I think that it depends on how long you want to do what you're doing and how intense you want to be about it. So I think that if you're specializing, it's got to be something you really love, because that's all you're going to be able to do. And you really need to get to the top, at least the top 10% of your market, if not the top 1% of your market. So if you have a specialty, when I hire an audio engineer or a TD, I'm kind of expecting them to have couple thousand shows under their belt. So if you're a specialist, you need to know that there's an incredibly hard turn and you have to be exceptional at what you do. If you're a generalist, you have the ability to do lots of different things. I know a lot of folks that are generalists that will do video and audio and lighting, and they can go and pitch something to someone as individually, and then actually go do the whole thing, the edit, the color correction, the delivery. I have a friend, Michael Coleman's been on the show, probably one of the better generalists I've ever met, where he is very effective at all of the things that are necessary. So he's a one-person machine that can get a lot of this stuff done. But as soon as the project gets a little bit bigger, he starts hiring a bunch of specialists to kind of fill that in. And so I think that you got to be able to kind of switch between those methodologies and I think so. I guess what I would say is I would start as a generalist. You got to know a little bit about how everything, with my son, he's just getting started, and I have him editing, color correcting, doing camera work, doing some, editing actually cutting shows, doing some audio work, and so he's learning all of those bits and pieces. If there's one that you really decide this is what I I want to do, then you focus on it. My brother is a good example of that. He focused on, he started with doing everything. With me, he was doing audio, video, lighting, all the different things, and then decided he wanted to do Steadicam. And now he's, doing pretty high-end Steadicam. But the interesting thing now is he's trying to generalize, because Steadicam has a shelf life. It's called your back. so he's now going more general in the sense of being a DP and doing other things that don't require him to pick up a big heavy camera all the time. So I think that it just really depends on it. But I would say that if I was beginning, I would start as becoming a very good generalist that can do the whole thing, what we call a predator, oftentimes. And then if there's a certain area that you really love, just know that to get to a point where someone like me is going to hire you, you're probably 5 or 10 years away from the time you start.
Courtney?
Yeah, it depends on, I think everything that Alex and Nigel have said are really true. You start with a generalization, but the problem with going into being a niche area is be prepared to pivot, because at the rate of technological change, your job classification could disappear overnight. So you have to have a fallback that you can move to. I mean, for example, I started out being interested in audio. I was in radio, so I moved into motion picture sound, which was an offshoot of doing sound, on the radio. Only now for motion picture, I step behind the mic rather than in front of the mic. So that was a specialization, and I rode that for a while, and then it got fairly competitive. As a production sound mixer, there in the union, there are maybe 600 other production sound mixers. So you're competing against all those guys, and it depends on the number of credits. So you become known to production coordinators as that specific, as a leader in that specific job, and you work your way up the ladder to have a reputation that puts you in the top 10%. Let's say you get a lot of work. If you're not in that top 10%, you may want to find a area of work that has less competition in it. So specialize more. And like you said, a Dante commissioning expert, might be a specialized thing. But, what if Dante goes out of business? Then where are you? So you got to be prepared to pivot if you specialize in a niche performance area. I moved into 24 frame playback, which was, there's maybe only 10 guys that did that in Hollywood, whereas as a sound mixer, I was good at both. But as a sound mixer, I'm competing against 600 other guys that have been in the business, and their parents have been in the business, and their parents' parents were in the business. But if you go into a niche area, it's easier to climb a shorter ladder to be at the top of that food chain. And once you become known in people's Rolodex or, in their database these days for doing what you're doing, they will come to you for that. But they won't think of you for something else that you did before that you're pretty good at, because you become pigeonholed in the industry. So if you become pigeonholed, be aware that your pigeonhole could get closed up at any time, and a technological advance could obsolete you.
Alex Lindsay, you want to come back in?
I don't think I've done anything for more than 3 or 4 years my whole life, but everything that I've done stood on what the last thing that I did. To what Nigel was talking about, is that I got to some place and I gained a bunch of things, but I'm always trying to, chew up the next thing, and I'm always looking down the field. And when you see us trying to do really high-end solutions, a lot of those high-end solutions that I'm attempting often are failing for years while I'm paying the bills with something else. And then suddenly they kind of click in. And now, and again, as Courtney said, I'm oftentimes one of only a handful of people that understand it because I was doing it before it made sense.
Ronnie Hoffoway in the chat made a comment that resonated with me. This is different for different markets. If you do this in a city with 80,000 people, you can't be very specialized. They need a lot more generalists than they do high-end specialists. So understand, it's market-driven sometimes. Next question.
Tony Mobley, Noonan, Georgia, is asking, I am using Canva for YouTube thumbnails. Is there something better?
Alex, what do you think?
I think Canva is just fine to use for thumbnails. It's a really good because it has a lot of templates that you can work with. The other one, what I use is Keynote, just because it's easy for me. so Keynote and Canva are similar. I don't need the templates. So if you need the templates, I think Canva is great. I think if you don't need the templates, then Keynote is a really easy thing to use, and it's free.
If you value what we do here, there are a few ways you can help. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's pretty simple. You can volunteer at officehours.global/volunteer, become part of the team that makes all this possible, or you can donate at officehours.global/donate. We are a 501c3 and we'd appreciate it. Next question.
This one is from Narcisse by Faith in Accra, Ghana. I have an event where all participants are remote. They're connecting via a single Zoom account and using video and screen sharing. I want to make the meeting more broadcast style using vmix. What is the best workflow in this case?
Alex, can you help?
Yeah, the two primary workflows that you would have there is using Zoom inside of vmix or having a Zoom room or some type of, you can have a custom AV solution from Zoom, and then flowing those via NDI back into vmix. And so I think that you can, and Mickey said, use Zoom Room clients feeding NDI to vmix. And so I think, and I would recommend having that separate that out. It's just going to be a lot lower load on the processor. It gives you a little bit more control. So, but I think that if you do it that way, you should be able to make that actually work pretty well.
Next question.
David Brady, New York City, New York. Much like the utilities folks use on Windows to unload junk, what kind of similar utilities are available for Mac? I'm rebuilding my lab and slogging through panels of settings. It'd be nice to have a single view into everything.
Alex, you have some suggestions for him?
I was trying to think of it. It's like, what do I throw away from my Mac? I probably should throw away more, but I never do. I don't put a lot of stuff on it. Now, one of the things that we do with the Mac is that when we have lots of them, we image them. So we image what the Mac should look like when it starts, and then we'll blow everything away and put it back on, if we need to, using something like Carbon Copy Cloner to get them back to a base state. But yeah, that's the farthest we typically take that.
Next question.
Jeff Veely in Henderson, Texas. What are the top 3 to 5 foundational skills a trainee should learn first when entering video production?
Oh, Courtney's going to start us off, having been on sets forever. Courtney?
Well, I think it depends on whether you want to decide on whether we're going to go with production or post-production, because there are some people that overlap, that do their own editing, that shoot, etc. They're one-man bands. It kind of depends on the market that you're going into, too. Generally, those two fields, professionally and larger markets, are kept separate. So if you're going to go into production, I'd say familiarize yourself with shooting, camera work, cameras that are used, sound. Sound is very important, how it interfaces to the camera, if you're recording on camera, or what recorders are available for recording double system out there. Familiar yourself with microphones, cameras, and lighting. Those are the 3 main fields you want to, in production that you want to learn about. And if you learn all 3, you can help out on a small crew, help out with lighting if you're doing sound, or help out with doing sound if you're a cameraman and they're short a sound recordist. You might be able to pitch in if something fails or have backup equipment if you learn those tasks and are familiar with the hardware that's out there. So trying to educate yourself in the 3 fields, sound, video, and lighting, as you can. That way you can decide which you do best and which you want to specialize in after you familiarize yourself with all 3 things and you watch others doing their jobs on the set.
Alex Lindsay?
Yeah, video, lighting, editing, color correction, audio. So those, if you get those 5 things, you figure those 5 things out, and then of course, as everybody else said, working with clients and getting things done. I will say, whatever you can do, as soon as you do a couple of things yourself until you're happy with a couple of things that you're done, but as fast as you can, find clients. So like doing stuff yourself is 1/10 the effectiveness for learning than doing it for somebody else, because they'll ask you to do all kinds of weird things that you don't want to do and that you think are dumb and they're hard, and they push you to do something that is unreasonable, and you'll learn much faster that way. So even if the clients at the beginning aren't paying, like usually that's how it begins for me, is I start doing stuff for free. You'll see me always fiddling around with something that I'm not charging anybody for. That's because I'm doing the R&D. And that's how I figure it out. And then at some point, it either fades away because I couldn't figure it out. But most of the time, it grows into something that suddenly needs a bunch of people to work on.
This has been a fascinating chat in the back end. So there's so many good ideas there. People are talking about learning how to use some of the tools on the outside of things. People are talking about learning cabling. That is one thing. When we see somebody on set and they know how to wrap a cable, you get an instant feeling of comfort because they've been around a while and they've learned how to do some of those basic things correctly. And it just gives you a good feeling about it. And Alexander and I said, make a seriously good cup of coffee. But some of these social skills, the little things, really do help you kind of fit in and make people want to have you back again. So the other thing for me is just learn to not say a lot in your first month and listen a ton. And then slowly but surely, as the people come to trust you, you can start putting your ideas and things if it's appropriate and when it's appropriate. But there's a lot of structure on sets, and sets are very tense things because a lot of work has to get done very quickly. So learning not to interrupt was one of the things that really helped me in the beginning. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Georgia is asking, Alex and panel, Tláloc is here. What are your thoughts on my new background?
Tony, start us off. What do you look good today.
Well, I'm going to actually say that, let me push my mic away. It sounds a little hot to me. I am spoiled, and I'm going to tell you why I'm spoiled. Tláloc is in another room, and he is controlling the Blackmagic camera app. And from where I'm looking, I look pretty good. So, I know that I'm not going to have this every week, every day. So I'm excited. But I just wanted to speak to my background. He came down yesterday and started working on the background, and he's finished it up pretty much this morning. And I wanted to know if the panel had any suggestions or any comments on what the background looks like right now.
Alexander Knight, you raised your hand second. I'm going to let you go next.
Yeah, so it definitely is. It's a huge improvement. Not having that TV with the glare, I mean, that drove me crazy when I saw that. So that's so much better, Tony. It looks so much better. I know it's a work in progress, obviously, and you guys are tweaking it. I think the IKEA Kallax unit behind with all the books and stuff like that, which will probably help diffuse your audio a little bit. I like the Tony Mobley. I don't know what that is, a postcard or something that has the Tony Mobley logo on it. I think that looks really good. And the only thing I would say is maybe some accent lighting. I don't know if you had plans. Maybe you can comment, Tony, if you guys had plans to put some accent lighting in those shells.
The 3D, not the 3D, the creation by Jeffrey Powers of the logo of Conversation with Tony Mobley does have a light on it. He did put a light on that, and there is room for one more light to be added to the bookcase. So we're still trying to decide where that's going to go.
Alex? I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Alex Lindsay?
Yeah, I think it's huge improvement. So I think it looks great. I think that the things that I would think about is I have a tendency to want my background to be darker than the subject, and so you can see in mine's fairly dark, and I tend to cool it down almost automatically because it just means I don't have to compete with it. I'm very competitive, and I don't want to compete with my background. So the two things that I attempt to do is drop the depth of field so that I can push things to be a little bit blurrier than I am, as well as dropping the light values down so that I'm not competing with the brightness of almost anything. I'm competing with these little elemental front ends, but outside of that, I'm not competing with too much there. So that's the kind of thing that I tend to think about. The other thing that I would think about with that shelving, and I don't know whether the camera is kind of turned a little bit if it's not flat on the shelving. The hard part when you have anything that is got grids is that if they're not straight on, it bothers some people that feel, they feel like they're leaning one way or another. So you have to be very careful with shelving, because shelving has to be kind of flat if you're going to put it behind you. Otherwise, it looks like it's tilted. So that'd be the only thing that I would look at there. But I would look at maybe dropping the value a little bit. If there's a way, I don't know if you can put a live feed out of the iPhone as cinematic mode, but you might be able to figure out how to soften up the background a little bit. I think that might help as well, but lower the values there. But those are the things that I'd probably go after next.
And for me, overall, absolutely great. It's a definite plus. The only thing now, and I have specific eyes, having looked into a lot of monitors and had to fix scenes. The right side of your face is getting lost a little bit against that chair background and the black background behind it. So I would think if there's something I could do, it would be add a little kicker or some kind of lighterness behind there, because that was confusing me. And I found myself staring at your ear because I can see the IFB, but I can't see that all distinctly. You do have an edge because your hair is contrasting with the background, so I'm not losing your definition, but I'm just looking at that a lot going, what's that thing right over his ear and things like that, and I never want to see any kind of distraction like that. So I'm being real specific. Tony, what did you want to finish up with saying?
I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. No problem. We're happy to do this. Hey, thank you all for paying attention to the show today. We truly appreciate it. We could not do this without you. In fact, you are the reason we do that. So we always say thank you because that is how the show operates. And we start with our panelists, everybody who came in today to help answer all these questions. And the panelists don't have anything to do without the producers. Those of you who ask questions, put them into the show, and drive this conversation every day. Our third constituency, the back-end crew, without any qualification, you people are amazing. Everybody all over the world who are touching this show, making it operate virtually, testing new things constantly, booking guests and figuring out how everything's going to fit together. It's an amazing community all the way around. So thank you to everybody who is involved in the production of Office Hours. I need to get to a different view so I can bring up our stats for today, and those are, I'm not seeing it. I don't see our Tláloc traversal today. Maybe that's just me, but it doesn't appear to be someplace.
We traveled 34,000 miles. That's 54,000 kilometers, and that is 266 million bananas for scale.
Excellent. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. See you then.
It looks like we lost our info screen.
Yeah. Wait a second. I looked for it.
Panel chat. It's in the panel chat.
Oh, you're right. It's down over there. That's not where my eyes are trained to go. My fault.
Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. I was like, what, I got to figure it out. The panel. I was looking for it too. Like,
we're creatures of habit.
Exactly. There's a leaf in the path.
Oh my God.
All right. See you, everybody.